Hello everyone, welcome to another session as part of our series on Syllabus Explained for Public Administration Optional. Now, when you look at the syllabus given to us by the UPSC, while it does give us about the broad details of topics and concepts that are needed to be studied as part of a particular unit underlying a subject, but there is often a lot that lot more than what meets the eye, and to that end the micro detailing of syllabus becomes essential, because in the mains examination the questions are not framed on macro topics but rather on certain key dimensions. And if we acquire a reasonable command, a grip on the micro topics that lay within the broad spectrum of the syllabus, it gives us a sizable advantage when it comes to handling the questions in the examination. So it is precisely this reading between the lines that can make or break your game in the mains examination. So today, as part of Syllabus Explained, we are considering Unit-7, that is Comparative Public Administration, of Paper-1, that is Administrative Theory. So let us look at what UPSC gives us. So when it comes to the syllabus given by the UPSC, it covers broad 5 heads, that is historical and sociological factors affecting the administrative systems, administration and politics in different countries, current status of CPA, the concepts of ecology and administration, and of course a scholar, that is Fred Riggs, and his models and their critique. While the syllabus for this unit might seem very brief, very clearly demarcated, but there are a lot more elements that we need to take care of. For example, the idea of CPA as a paradigm itself. While it does get a snapshot in the introduction unit itself, but a detailed inquiry is warranted for this particular unit or through this particular unit. So let us see in greater details what all do we need to cover this unit effectively. The very idea of the meaning, nature, scope and purpose of CPA. What does it mean? So obviously there will be more scholars and views associated with it. Then of course the broad threads around which the CPA is woven, the current status, and these concepts, normative, empirical, ideographic, nomothetic, non-ecological to ecological. Of course, these things will have a linkage with ecology and administration as well as a subtopic. So it is this intertwined nature that we need to organize to cover the unit effectively. Further, the sources and evolution of CPA as a paradigm. And as part of that paradigm, we will have to see the reasons. Though there are multitude of reasons, but the broad heads that you need to explore is the developing countries angle, the new challenges after World War II that led to the coming up of CPA, the coming up of international cooperation, coordination, and the constant quest for a science, and the discussions around what constitutes the subject matter of the CPA and how it progressed during the Cold War. So all of those reasons will combine to give you a multispectoral view of how and why the CPA evolved as a paradigm or as a doctrine of administration. Then of course, with regards to development, a key scholar, Farrell Heady and his contributions. And how does it play out, the CPA, between the administration and society? Certain historical developments like the formation of Comparative Administration Group in United States and its contributions towards the thematic development of the CPA as a paradigm. CPA and the concept of comparative administration. Remember, the idea of comparison was given even by Wilson, Unit 1. So those linkages have to be drawn, invoked, weaved when we take up a unit like the comparative public administration. Further, the various theoretical approaches, and of course they will involve various scholars and methods. The traditional approaches, philosophical approaches, historical approach, comparative approach itself, and the modern approaches, including Marxist, behavioral, decision-making, contingency approach. Remember, when it comes to contingency approach, we took up as part of the organizations as well. So that is how interlinkages will have to be drawn here. The rational choice approach, the public choice approach, linking with the public choice theory, Unit 1. Then the objectives and features of CPA as they have come to be crystallized after so much analysis, progression and churning to demarcate the contours of CPA as a paradigm, as a movement. Then how CPA relates to the larger edifice of public administration. What is its scope, significance, problems? So we have to boil it down to these granular topics, because the question can just be on the problems or just be on the scope, which the original actual UPSC syllabus obfuscates. And hence, this explanation of the syllabus itself is very, very important. Let us move forward. The various models that are coming to be associated with the CPA. If you recall, I talked about Wilson before as well. So here is Wilson. Similarly, how this modeling helps us to understand CPA better. The Weber's model, Wilson model, comparative perspective, and the paradigms which are set by the Wilson and its features, that is the ecological approach, developmental approach, structural functional approach, and the institutional approach. So these approaches themselves, if you see, have various details, debates, views that ultimately link to the concept of CPA. And hence they also need to be studied with regards to this unit. Then the Riggs and his contributions. But before I elaborate on Riggs through these comparative approaches itself, we will have to take examples of various countries the historical and sociological factors. So those two heads will be taken care through these very approaches. Now, as part of the Riggsian models and his contribution, the basic introduction about Riggs, the trends observed by Riggs, the usage of various approaches by Riggs, the systems approach, the structural functional approach, the ecological approach. The premise, application, merits, limitations of each of those approaches as used by Riggs. And then of course the various models, the agraria and industria models, okay, and their limitations. The fused, prismatic, diffracted model and their individualistic characteristics. What do we understand by a diffracted society through which, or rather on which, those models are being applied to study them? Similarly, the prismatic society and how the prismatic Sala model comes into the picture, and certain conceptual orientations which through his analysis Riggs presents us in form of concepts like heterogeneity, formalism, overlapping, and their overall appraisal. And it is here where we will draw a thread towards the next unit, that is the development administration, linking CPA with the development dynamics, and finally arrive at the present status that includes the new CPA as an idea, as a philosophy. Further, a consolidation is demanded through the readings, through the learnings that have gone before this on historical and sociological factors affecting the administrative systems, how they affect, why they affect, and then having a look at the administration and politics in different countries. Now here is the tricky part, friends. While for the convenience we can take these systems, that is UK, US, France, Russia, China, the P5 members of the Security Council, because they represent a system of every hue, a monarchical parliamentary democracy system, a presidential form of a system, right, a system which is largely having communist origins, right, totalitarian system. But also it is vital that we study India and its neighbors vis-a-vis, let us say, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and through that we derive the understanding on comparative perspectives. And then taking a leaf from the present status, move towards the doctrine of new CPA and see what all it entails. How is it different from the old CPA? What things it brings to the table? Were there any lackings or shortcomings in the old CPA that this new CPA espouses to correct? So all those elements have to be studied. Moving further, if you see the footprint of the comparative public administration is roughly 25 marks out of 400. If you don't recall how this 400 figure came, please see the other sessions of Syllabus Explained, where I have told you that the paper is set for 400 marks and the instructions are such that we have to attempt 250 marks. So I am giving you the footprint with regards to the 400 marks, that it comes around 25 marks on an average, and this is based on the exams conducted by the UPSC over the last decade. Now let us look at the frequency with which certain topics are asked. So the most favorite topic has been the Rixian models and the current status of CPA. But certainly you cannot understand them without understanding the rest of the CPA. So studying them is inevitable, but where you should keep your razor sharp focus is these. Whereas the historical and sociological factors, the frequency is roughly low. Same is the administration and politics in different countries. However, there can be certain isolated questions, like one was asked, which will span across these topics, right? Or will rather touch multitude of these topics, combining, let us say, a Rixian model, comparison of two systems of two countries, right? At the same time, hinting towards ecology and administration, something that we covered through the ecological approach in the listing when we were going about it. Generally, you will find that the questions have been situated in part B of the question paper, right? Almost even distribution there, rarely in 7 or 8. So the chances are that out of those 25, you might find a 10 marker and a 15 marker, right? And of course that's an average, so you can find a 10 marker or a 20 marker as well. So based on these insights, it actually helps us to prepare the subject better, the unit, the topic better, because mains is all about micromanagement of topic, and hence an insight into these topics can really play a significant role in scoring marks in the mains examination. Last but not the least, let us look at the sources that might be needed to cover this. The IGNOU material remains a very potent, standard and easy source. Books like Prasad and Mohit Bhattacharya will give you enough ammunition for the examination, but it is the interlinking part, the understanding part, that you will have to enrich to actually deliver on the answer booklet. So with this, I'll see you in the next session. Thank you.